Today, let's see the drugs which are acting on uterus. So, all the drugs which are acting on uterus will act mainly on endometrium and myometrium. So, there are two types of uterine drugs. One is uterine stimulant and the other one is uterine relaxant. So, let's see what are uterine stimulants. Uterine stimulants are the drugs which are used for the contraction of the uterus. So, let's see the classification of uterine stimulants. If you see here, you will be having 4 sub-classifications in uterine stimulants. The first one is posterior pituitary hormone, which is a natural hormone present in our body, that is oxytocin. And next one is des-amino-oxytocin. If you see this ergot alkaloids, you will be having 2 drugs which are ergometrin and next one is methyl ergometrin. Next one is prostaglandins. In prostaglandins we have prostaglandins 2 and prostaglandins 2 alpha and misoprostol. Next one is miscellaneous drugs. In this the drugs are, first one is ethacridine, next one is quinine. So let's see the first drug which is our natural hormone oxytocin. So where this oxytocin is located and from where it is synthesized and what are the uses of this oxytocin. So if you see, this is the hypothalamus and this is posterior pituitary gland and this is anterior pituitary gland. This posterior pituitary gland will release 2 hormones, 2 main hormones, that is ADH and oxytocin. So how it is releasing? So you will be having in hypothalamus, you will be having button-like structures which are called as paraventricular nuclei. So this button-like structures will get stimulated. This is the axon and this is the axon terminal. When we need oxytocin, our body will give one signal which we will see later. Okay, when it is receiving the signal, paraventricular nuclei will get activated and it will start to synthesize this oxytocin hormone. And after synthesizing in this paraventricular nuclei, it will start to release that hormone through this axon and it will store in this axon terminal. When we need this oxytocin, then it will start to release the oxytocin into our bloodstreams. We will use this oxytocin for uterine contraction, right? So how it is doing contraction? Previously, there are so many controversies on this oxytocin that nobody knows whether this oxytocin or whether this antibiotic hormone is contracting the uterus. So a biochemist called as Vincent Dew in 1953 have separated these 2 hormones, determined the chemical structure for these 2 hormones and he have synthesized them and he recognized that this uterine contraction is due to presence of oxytocin in the body. For this experiment, he also won Nobel Prize. So let's see what it is doing in our body. It is released during coitus. Coitus means sexual intercourse, parturitions, suckling. Before going into drugs acting on uterus and how they are acting, let's see the structure of uterus and how our natural oxytocin is released and acting on this uterus. So let's see this structure. So if you see in this uterus, you will be having at the base you have fundus. Near to this fundus you will be having fallopian tubes and ovaries. This is body and this is the fundus and you will be having apex. In this apex you will be having cervix and cervical canal. This area is called as cervical canal and this part is called as cervix and this is the vagina and here at the end of this cervix you will be having external OS. And if you see the layers of this uterus, you have endometrium, which is the inner part of this one is endometrium, and the middle part, which is huge muscle part, that is myometrium, and this is the lumen, and this whole thing is our uterus. So let's see what will happen. When a lady is pregnant till 7th month, the fetus will be in this position where the head will be towards our fundus side and the legs will be towards our cervix side. But after 7th month, baby starts to rotate from this side to, baby will start to rotate slowly this side. At the end of the 7th month, baby head will be near our cervix and legs towards our fundus. So this position is called as cephalic position. In some ladies, this baby won't rotate by itself. That is called as breech position. In 8th month and 9th month also, head will be towards the fundus. So that's called as breech position. So let's see this cephalic position. When the baby is in cephalic position, as the baby is growing, this uterus won't be sufficient for the baby, so it will try to come outside. Baby will push this cervix. So near this external OS, you will be having jelly-like substance which will stop this placental water. But when baby pushes near this cervix, that jelly substance will come out and the whole water starts to leak. At that time, near this cervix, if you see clearly this cervix, so this is the cervix and here you will be having the head. So near this cervix here, you will be having neurons which will stimulate the paraventricular nuclei. So when it is stimulating this paraventricular nuclei, this paraventricular nuclei will start to synthesize this oxytocin. So in return from this posterior pituitary gland, it will release oxytocin. And this oxytocin will go near this cervix, will enter here and it will show the contraction of the uterus. Till when this will be there and what is happening in this contraction? So this contraction will be till the baby foot comes out. So if baby is pushing here continuously, so till baby comes out, the baby will be pushing this cervix, right? So till when the foot will come out, till then you will be having this release of oxytocin. So this is one part. And next one will be milk ejection. So next, let's see the action of oxytocin on breast. So this is the structure of breast and it will be having alveolar, which are this air-like sacs which will be attached to this ducts, and in alveoli milk is produced and from alveoli it is transferred to our ducts and from ducts it will come out of nipple. This milk ejection will start after 3 to 4 days when baby starts to suck. Immediately after baby birth, there won't be any milk production or there won't be any milk ejection. But after 3 to 5 days, milk will start to produce. You will be having some receptors in this alveoli. Okay, so think this is the alveoli. In this alveoli, you have receptors of oxytocin that will stimulate the neurons in this alveoli and around this areola. This will send information to paraventricular nuclei, and from here near this end of axon terminal, it will release the oxytocin into the blood streams. Now from blood streams, it will go near the breast and it will start to release the milk, but this will take 3 to 5 days. How these neurons are stimulating? These neurons are stimulated when baby is sucking the nipple. After childbirth also, if baby is not sucking the nipple, the breast won't produce any milk. And the first milk which comes out of this breast is called as colostrum milk, which will be clear fluid, lightish yellow in color. It consists of so much of nutrients. So within this 3 to 5 days, babies starts to lose their weight because they are not drinking milk, proper milk, that's why. But after 5 days, when they start to drink milk, they will put on weight because mother's milk consists of so much of proteins, fats and nutrients. This neurons, not only they get activated when baby is sucking, but also it will be psychogenic stimulation. What is this psychogenic stimulation? If mother hears any baby's cry, she will remember the baby and she will start to milking. This oxytocin, will it be present only in female? No, it is also present in male. So even female and male will be secreting and releasing this hormone. So why it is called as love hormone? Because this hypothalamus is linked with limbic system, which is the center of our emotions, especially the place where this oxytocin is releasing. That nuclei is attached to this limbic system. That's why mother used to release this oxytocin even when she is hearing the cry of baby. And not only that, female is secreting more oxytocin than male. That's why there will be more emotions for female when compared to male. After childbirth also, this oxytocin is releasing. So will that show any effect on uterus? Yes. After the childbirth, there will be so much of fluids and there will be so much of waste material in the uterus. So when this oxytocin is released into bloodstreams, that will go and act on uterus too. When it is acting on uterus, it will, when the baby is sucking here, it will release more and more oxytocin. It will do contraction of uterus and it will release all the fluids and waste materials from the uterus. That's how this oxytocin will work in our body. So let's see the pharmacological actions of this oxytocin. In this, first pharmacological action will be on uterus. In uterus, it will increase the force and it will increase the frequency of contraction. Naturally, female body will produce oxytocin when they are about to deliver. Okay, but in some condition that oxytocin won't be sufficient for the birth of the baby. So that's the reason we will inject more oxytocin into the patient. So when we are giving in low dosages, it will be showing full relaxation in between the contraction. When I told that oxytocin will do contraction, it won't only do contraction, it will also do relaxation. For example, so this is uterus. So when oxytocin starts to contract, what it will do? It will contract here and it will relax. And when it comes to lower position, it will contract at the time when the upper position is relaxed. So contraction, relaxation, contraction, relaxation. That's how it will push the baby to this cervix and out of this cervix. So when we are giving in low dose, then it will do full relaxation and contraction. Full relaxation between this contraction. That means after contracting, it will do full relaxation. When we are giving high dosages, there will be slight relaxation, but there will be more contraction. So the relaxation will be this much, but the contraction will be huge. So full relaxation between the contraction. So when it comes to high dosages, this will contract only near the basal membrane, which is the fundus. This is the basal part. When I am giving the drug in high dosages, this will show the effect only near basal area. Estrogen hormone is released when there is childbirth. So this will sensitize this uterus to oxytocin. That's the reason when oxytocin is released, it is showing much effect on uterus. This estrogen will make this uterus sensitive to oxytocin. So when it is making sensitive to the oxytocin, in myometrium, it will increase the oxytocin receptor. So when this estrogen will sensitize this uterus to oxytocin, normally if the woman is not pregnant, then this won't show, and oxytocin won't show any effect, like it won't do any contractions or anything, except it will show effect in abortions only, but remaining it won't do anything. But in pregnancy, from third trimester, it will start to show effect. That means it will show the sensitivity to the uterus. So this when our oxytocin receptors start to increase in our myometrium, where this contraction will be. So this contraction will be near the fundus and near the body, but there won't be any contraction near lower segment. So now let's see the mechanism of action of this oxytocin. So how it is acting? It is doing three mechanisms. So first one is, this oxytocin will go and bind to this oxytocin receptor, which is in our myometrium. So in that muscle fiber, in that myometrium, I told you myometrium is muscle part. So in this muscle fiber, as this receptors is activating, as the receptors are sending signals to this muscle fibers, this will increase the influxes of calcium. So we already know what is the function of calcium. Calcium is used in the contraction of muscle. So muscle contraction. So this is how it is acting on muscle. When it comes to second mechanism, so this oxytocin receptor is a G protein coupled receptor. So this receptor, as this is G protein receptor, when oxytocin comes and binds with this receptor, what will happen? It will do activation of IP3. So this IP3 will activate the calcium channels. When it is activating calcium channels, this calcium will go into the muscles of myometrium. So that will do contraction. And third one, it will also increase the synthesis of prostaglandins. Increase prostaglandins synthesis, which are released by endometrium. This will increase the contraction of uterus. So let's see what it is doing in breast. In breast, what oxytocin will do? It will contract myoepithelium, which is in alveoli. So when myoepithelium gets contracted, it will force the milk from alveoli into bigger milk sinusoids, and from there the milk will come outside. So next one, let's see what it is showing action on cardiovascular system. When it comes to cardiovascular system, in low dosages it won't show any effect on heart, but when in high dosages it will do vasodilation. This will decrease the BP. Vasodilation means it will decrease BP, right? So fourth point is on kidney. When we are giving lower dosages, it won't show any effect on kidney. But if we are increasing the dose, it will show a similar action of ADH, antidiuretic hormone. So when we are giving for this for longer period of time, like when we are giving for pregnant ladies through IVs, it will do pulmonary edema. That's why when we are giving these dosages, we have to be very careful. So let's see the physiological roles of this oxytocin. So we have already seen these physiological roles. The first one will be oxytocin is used in labor. Second one will be milk ejection reflex. And third one is the physiological role as a neurotransmitter. Oxytocin functions as a peptide neurotransmitter of oxytocinergic neurons in hypothalamus. It will do the regulation of autonomic outflow. So let's see the pharmacokinetics. This oxytocin, as it is a peptide, it is inactive orally. So we can't take this orally. That's why we will give this through IV infusions, through IM, and also through intranasal spray, and it is degraded in liver and kidney. And if you see the plasma T half is 6 to 12 minutes. So let's see the uses of oxytocin. Why we are using this oxytocin? In this, the first one will be induction of labor. What is induction of labor? So this labor needs to be induced in some cases like post-mature and premature. In premature also, we will be having different types. Prematurity like toxemia of pregnancy, diabetic mother, erythroblastosis, ruptured membrane, and placental insufficiency. Let's see what is this post-maturity. This post-maturity is if the baby is more than 42 weeks in the womb of the mother, then it is called as post-maturity. So then, to induce these contractions, we will give oxytocin to mother. And next one is prematurity. In prematurity, the first one is toxemia of pregnancy. This toxemia is, in pregnancy, most of the women will experience the high blood pressure. When there is more blood pressure day by day, what will happen? There will be damage of organs, and mostly this damage will be to the kidneys. So when kidneys get damaged, there will be more excretion of protein from the body. So there will be more loss of proteins. Next one is diabetic mothers. In mother, there will be diabetes. So when there is diabetes, there will be few complications to the fetus. For that reason, we will give oxytocin and we will induce this contractions. And next one will be erythroblastosis. This erythroblastosis is, there will be destruction of RBC in fetus. This is due to maternal immunity system. In this, what will happen? Mother's blood and fetus blood won't be compatible. In that cases, fetus RBC will get destroyed by mother's immune system. And next one is placental insufficiency. In some condition, after few weeks, placenta won't grow along with the baby. At some point it will stop growing. That is placental insufficiency. In some conditions, this placenta will get damaged due to so many reasons. That is called as placental dysfunction. When this placenta get damaged, it won't function properly. That's the condition we will call it as placental dysfunction. This will also comes under placental insufficiency only. So next, let's see this ruptured membrane. They will be in some condition, actually this amniotic sac will rupture at the time of delivery. But in some condition, it will rupture before 42 weeks only. That is called as ruptured membrane. At that time, we have to take the baby as soon as possible. Otherwise, due to this loss of amniotic fluid, the fetus will get suffocated and fetus won't get sufficient oxygen. So for this premature and post-mature conditions, we will give oxytocin 5 international units, which is diluted in 500 ml of glucose or saline solution. And before we are giving this infusion, we have to remember few conditions in which we have to be very careful. In that, the first one is presentation should be correct. There are 3 types of presentations. So the first one is cephalic presentation, and next one is breech presentation, and the third one is shoulder presentation. So let's see one by one. First one is cephalic presentation. In the cephalic presentation, the head will be down near the cervix. So if this is the cervix, the head will be near the cervix and legs towards fundus. So this is cephalic. When it comes to breech, here head will be towards the fundus and legs will be towards the cervix. When it comes to shoulder presentation, in this, the baby will be near the cervix, like the baby's shoulders, arms will be the near cervix, like the arm will be like this, shoulder, this will be the shoulder, and baby will be sleeping like this near the uterus. So when you are giving this oxytocin, the baby should be in cephalic position, and in some conditions baby can be in breech condition also, but not the shoulder presentation, because shoulder presentation is not suitable for normal delivery. In some time breech, and every time cephalic presentation is good for normal delivery. So next one will be fetal lung maturity. The fetus lung should be adequately mature. Why? Because for example, if it is premature baby and fetus lung is not developed properly, if we are taking that fetus outside, that will cause us more harmful effect to the baby, because baby can't breathe properly at that time. We should not touch the fetus unless there will be maturity in lungs. But by any chance, if we are taking fetus outside, we have to keep the child in ventilation. And third point is cephalic disproportion. In some conditions, mother's pelvis will be very small, that won't be able to deliver the baby's head. Otherwise, in some conditions, fetus head will be large in size. At that condition, fetus won't be delivered from this cervix, because the pelvic bone size is very small. And in some conditions, the head of the fetus is larger. At that time, we can't give this oxytocin. Instead, we have to do C-section. When it comes to fourth one, there should not be any placental previa. What is this placental previa? In this placental previa, placenta will cover the opening of the cervix. So if this is the cervix, placenta will be like this. So if we have this type of conditions, baby can't come from this area. Actually the placenta should be, if this is the cervix, placenta should be like this. The baby can come outside easily, but in this condition, this will obstruct the fetus head to come out of the cervix. So fifth point, there should not be any fetal distress. What is fetal distress? In some condition, fetus won't receive sufficient oxygen. The fetus will get suffocated and the fetus may die also. So there should not be any uterine scars which is caused due to the previous surgeries. Previously, the mother have went through any C-section, they will be opening in the uterine. So if we are again giving this oxytocin, this will rupture the area over here. That's why we should not give oxytocin when the patient is having already uterine scar. So these are the steps which we have to remember before giving this oxytocin to any pregnant women. So the next use is uterine inertia. What is this uterine inertia? In this uterine inertia, the patient will be having contractions, but there won't be enough contraction to push the baby. That's the reason we will give oxytocin. But we have to remember that whether those contractions are real contractions or false contractions. There are some contractions called as Braxton Hicks contraction. This Braxton Hicks contractions are false contractions. What causes this false contraction? When baby starts to push this cervix, there will be sensory neurons here which will send message to our paraventricular nuclei, isn't it? But here in some conditions after 8 months, baby they won't get sufficient space in the uterus, so they starts to kick. When the baby starts to kick, it will kick the cervix also. So the sensory neurons in this cervix will be activated, but this activation is slight activation. That's why it will stimulate the paraventricular nuclei and will release this oxytocin, but this oxytocin will be very small quantity. So this contractions will be only for 1 or 2 minutes, okay, not more than that. So those are false contractions, okay. That is how false contractions are stimulated. So when we are seeing this one in this uterine inertia, we have to be very careful that those contractions are not false contractions, and if we are giving for this false contraction, we have to inject more oxytocin, and that will cause more problem to mother and at the same time to the fetus also. And we have to give this one through IV. And one more thing, we have to be very careful that we should not give this oxytocin when there is labor progressing. So why we are selecting oxytocin over ergometrin? This ergometrin is also drug which acts as oxytocin. But here for this uterine inertia, we will give this oxytocin only because of its shorter T-half plus slow IV infusion. And not only that, we can control the intensity of the action. Like if we are giving, we can give it for more contractions or mediate contractions also, and we can terminate this action whenever we need it. And fifth point will be, I already told you when I am talking about oxytocin, when we are giving this oxytocin, there will be full relaxation between the contractions. Even ergometrin will be having relaxation, but it won't be full relaxation. It will be like relaxing, relaxing and contraction, relaxing, contraction. So it will be like this. But for this one, contraction and full relaxation of that muscle, then it will go for another contraction. So when we are giving this oxytocin, the lower segment is not contracted. When I am talking about uterus, I told you only the fundus and the body will get contracted, but not the lower segment, isn't it? So oxytocin is best for that. Why it is not contracting the lower segment? Because if the fetus will be in the lower segment only. If the lower segment is contracting, what will happen? This will damage the soft tissues of fetus. But ergometrin will contract whole uterus. So that's the reason we will select this oxytocin. So the next use will be in postpartum hemorrhage. So what is postpartum hemorrhage? After the delivery, some mothers will have so much of bleeding. And at that time, there will be decrease of BP and the mother may go into shock and death also. This will not only happen in normal delivery, it will also happen in cesarean. So for this, we will give oxytocin 5 international units through IM or IV. So here what it will do? It will stop the hemorrhage by going and contracting this blood vessels which are causing this hemorrhage, which are in this endometrium layer, and then it will arrest the hemorrhage. Next use is breast engorgement. This breast engorgement is caused due to when there is sufficient production of milk but there is no sufficient ejection of milk. At that time, we will give this oxytocin as an intranasal spray. We will give this before few minutes of suckling. Then it will eject all the milk. But we have to remember here, oxytocin won't produce more milk. It will only eject the milk. So let's see the adverse effects. When we are giving more oxytocin, due to the strong uterine contractions, they will be forcing of this presentation. Due to this heavy contractions, it will push the baby and this may injure the fetus and mother's soft tissues, and also it will causes rupture of uterus and fetal asphyxia. This fetal asphyxia is there won't be sufficient oxygen supplied to the fetus, because when there is a heavy contraction, the fetus will get compressed. So when it is getting compressed, there won't be sufficient oxygen supplied to the fetus. The fetus may die also. Next one is water intoxication. In this water intoxication, this oxytocin, when it is given in higher dosages, it will act like antidiuretic hormone. So when it is acting like antidiuretic hormone, it will save all the water and it won't allow any water to go outside. This will be mainly in toxemia of pregnancy. So if it is saving all the water, in toxemia of pregnancy, there is increase of blood pressure. So if we are saving all the water, again this will increase more water in the body and it may also cause pulmonary edema. And in some cases, even fetus may die. So these are the uses and functions and anatomy of oxytocin and adverse effects of oxytocin. So we will see ergotamine in next class. Thank you.